Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this month's Scrutiny Panel meeting. Fire alarm procedures are as follows. If the fire alarm is activated, please vacate the offices down the main staircase, opposite the lifts in the foyer. Assembly in Hawley Square on the green. Officers will assist you and advise you when it's deemed to return to the chamber. Would everyone please ensure their mobile phones are turned to silent and they are not used to make or receive phone calls whilst the meeting is in progress. Please note that this meeting is being live streamed for members of the public. The meeting will also be recorded and subsequently broadcast on the internet. Does anyone intend to film the meeting? No, and we've got no members of the public, so move on. Nobody wishing to speak under, do you want to speak under 20.1? No, nobody wishing to speak under 20.1. And I've got no requests from any member of the public. Right, okay, moving on to item number 1. Apologies for absence. I've got Councillor Cupp, replaced by Linda White, Councillor Moore, Councillor Faruqi, Councillor Bright and Councillor Scobie. Are there any declarations of interest? Nope. Okay, moving on to item 3, the minutes of the previous meeting. To approve the minutes of the Overview and Scrutiny Panel meeting held on the 16th of July 2024. A copy is attached to the agenda pack, and I presume you've all read them. And do I have a proposer, please? Councillor Davis and a seconder, Councillor Green. All members agreed? Thank you. Okay, moving on to item number 4. The purchase of 30 homes at Hayne Road for affordable rent. I'll call on Ms Jackson to introduce the report.
Thank you. As you're aware, the Council recently approved Thanet District Council's Accelerated Affordable Housing Development Programme, which will see at least 400 new homes constructed or acquired by 2027. While previous reports that have been brought to Overview and Scrutiny Panel detail acquisitions that have been made for homes contained within Section 106 agreements, this site represents a first in that these homes are further additionality. Officers were contacted by Gilchrist, owner of the development at Hayne Road, Ramsgate. The cost of the 30 homes, which is made up of 3 two-bed homes and 27 three-bedroom homes, totals 8.3 million and is funded as follows. 2.5 million Homes England grant, 5.5 million is formed of borrowing, 300,000 is from a Section 106 commuted sum, and £50,000 has been allocated for associated costs. To be viable, schemes need to show an overall surplus of over a 30 or 50 year timescale, depending on the duration of any borrowing. The proposed purchase would generate a cash flow deficit in year 1 of 38,860, with surpluses accumulating from year 8. There is a significant need for properties containing 2 bedrooms and 3 bedrooms. The housing register shows 232 households have a requirement for a 2-bed and 357 requiring a 3-bedroom property. The recommendations of the report are that Thanet Council progresses with the acquisition of the 30 new affordable homes being built by developer Gilchrist using the Accelerated Housing Programme capital budget approved by Council at its meeting on the 12th of October 2023. That the Director of Corporate Services will reassess the viability of the schemes and subsequently approve these acquisitions in consultation with the Deputy Leader and Cabinet Member for Housing should there be a variation to the assumed level of borrowing needed, and the letting of the homes in accordance with the Council's allocations policy and any subsequent local lettings plans at an affordable rent, as set out in the Council's strategy. Thank you.
Thanks, Ashley. Members, any questions?
Do we know yet whether any of the proposals on housing by the new government will affect our acquisition policy?
I think the straightforward answer to that is we don't know yet, no. We have had some communication from this new Secretary of State, Deputy Prime Minister, about housing delivery, although that's mostly focused on planning. And I'm sure you would have all heard during the election campaign and announcements from governments since the election that the government is looking to reintroduce mandatory targets for housing delivery for local councils. So we are at the moment just kind of working through what that means for us. I've also seen information from the government saying that they wanted to invest in an ongoing council house building programme. But there's been no announcements about what that might mean in terms of the amounts available. Homes England do still have budget in the current funding round for affordable housing grant, which I think is the current round I think ends in March next year. So there will be an announcement, almost certainly from government, about the size of Homes England's budget for the next period. I wouldn't expect to see that until the autumn spending review, to be honest, and that would then apply from April 2025, probably for maybe a 4-year period beyond that. Beyond that, we haven't really seen very much so far. Nothing to suggest that our current strategy would be impacted, and everything that's been approved so far, the subsidy has been coming from developers with borrowing from the council's own revenue account. This project is the first one where we've said we will seek grant from Homes England, so it's government grant. We've had some informal conversations with Homes England, and the indications are positive about them being willing to fund this project, and actually the other one that's on the agenda this evening.
Councillor Davis.
Thank you, Chair. One of the questions that a lot of people are asking, because obviously we welcome adding to the council stock because we've got this massive problem. When are these going to be available for occupation is the key question, because otherwise it just seems to be nice ideas. Plus, interest rates are on the move, and although this is calculated at 4.7, of course, if it's too long an interim between now and delivery, that could really affect, hopefully positively, but could affect the costings. But when would we expect these actually to be giving benefit to residents?
Yeah, I think you asked this last time. I think previously you did share a table of expected dates that the properties were coming forward. So these ones are actually built or on site and nearing completion. They've initially said to us December, but actually we've asked them to move it till January because we don't want to be moving people in before Christmas. So these are a good way along already being built and nearly completed. So it'd be late this year, early January.
Music to my ears, and I'm sure those that will look forward to moving in them actually. So that's obviously much preferable to.
Councillor Green.
Yeah, could I ask, is this a whole estate that we're taking over, or is it part of a much bigger project?
Yeah, it's part of it's on the estate. It's by the golf course along Hayne Road, so it's part of the estate, not all of them.
Did we get a discount?
Yeah, we did get a discount. Yeah, for taking all of them.
Councillor Austin.
It's probably not relevant to these houses in the light of what you've said about a house, how near to completion they are. But in terms of our relationship with Homes England and so on, what's their expectation about things like insulation and those kinds of issues that we've talked about? I know quite a lot in this group with Councillor Whitehead in the past about how we can influence developers to be more sustainable and help people cut their running costs once they're in the housing.
Yeah, I think these units are EPC B, so these are a really good standard of housing. We've not actually worked with Gilchrist before. These are their first affordable units they've done. Well, they're not affordable; they were market sale, so that's the difference. In the first instance, but yeah, they're B, which is a really good standard. We can't influence that.
Does Homes England have a sort of minimum, or that's not part of their guidelines?
No, I don't think it
I
is.
don't think they do
No.
specifically, but the general guidance from government about energy efficiency in the sector is we should be working towards having all of our homes at EPCC. I don't think Homes England would support anything that wasn't. at that level. If it's going to be EPCB, and obviously our own development programme, which is also getting some grant, we're delivering at that standard as well. That gets they do support that, and I think it's quite well received at Homes England.
Councillor Wing?
Thank you. I think because we're buying from an estate, but I sit on planning, and sometimes the affordable housing is all dumped in the worst part of the estate, and the units are smaller. So I'm making the assumption that these are not, because we're sort of buying them from the developer, so they weren't originally part of a social housing part of a development. But are they sort of in keeping with? So the units we're buying are similar to the other units of exactly the same two-bed, and are they all in one place, or are they sort of scattered about, or chunks here and there?
So this site hasn't got any affordable housing on it. This site is actually our first homes development. So all the units are exactly the same. They're all for market sale. These are just in one section. They're not. It's not a massive. It's not like the Barrett sites. It's not a massive site. I mean, you probably all know the site. So you wouldn't know any different. No.
Councillor Curry?
The original affordable housing policy was 400 by 2027. How far ahead are we of that target?
We've been talking about this afternoon. We've actually got a paper coming to the Housing CAG tomorrow with an update. It's been quite fast moving, so actually, Ashley, I think you're going to do a presentation at the CAG tomorrow, which is going to move it on a bit from what the paper that we sent to the members that are on the Housing CAG. But the 400 target includes our own new build programme. It includes the acquisitions that have been through decision making here and at Cabinet. It also includes the temporary accommodation programme, which is funded in the general fund. If you put all of those together, with the projects that, including these two on the agenda tonight, all of the projects that have been approved so far, we've approved 198 acquisitions. So that on its own is halfway to the target. We've the phase 4 new build programme. We're in contract with W.W. Martins for construction. They are due to start construction very soon. That's for another 49. So that brings us up towards 250. And we acquired one temporary accommodation project for 7 flats, and the other report on the agenda this evening has got another 6, so that's 13. So we're up somewhere around 260. We've got other proposals that we're costing up at the moment, including one which we're due to bring forward for decision in September, which is similarly to this one, buying a whole site, and a further project buying a whole site of 137 units, which will put us up pretty close to 400. Now, obviously, the key thing is the delivery timeline. So our working target is effectively that all of those homes are completed and occupied by the end of that 4-year period. And so, we're feeling pretty optimistic at this point that we will be able to do those 400 within that time frame. So, having the pipeline sorted out early, I think really helps, because, getting through the construction phase and getting properties built and occupied does take a while. So having the pipeline sorted out at this point, I think is, it's fantastic progress, and so we feel quite confident that we can deliver the target.
That's fantastic. Well done to the team, truly. With the target of 400, because you are ahead of the curve, would there be any plans to acquire more than the 400?
So the limiting factor in the ability of the council to deliver this is our ability to pay for the borrowing costs in the initial year. So you've seen the graphs come through here. They all look pretty much the same. Every scheme has got a net revenue cost in the first year, first few years, and then it moves into surplus. So the limiting factor in our ability to deliver more homes is whether or not we can fund that deficit in the initial years. We picked the 400 homes target because we knew that the business plan could sustain those costs in the initial years, and in the longer term it all moves into surplus. We have commissioned some financial advice from HRA business plan advisors to see whether there's a way to do more beyond 400, and the target was always at least 400. So, if there is a way to do more, then, we will identify that and report that. It's probably important to say that Council approved a budget of 100 million. So, obviously, if we're going to go beyond that, we'd need to go back to Council and explain why we needed more than 100 million. And we would need to demonstrate that that was affordable, and any borrowing to support that could be funded through the business plan. So, obviously, and members would quite rightly ask those questions. Of that 100 million, we've so far,
84.
including the 137 units that we're proposing to bring forward for decision making in the next cycle, we've committed 84 million of that 100 million. So there's still enough headroom to get us to the end of the programme. So in terms of unit prices, I think we're a bit ahead of where we thought we would be. But, broadly speaking, the numbers are working out pretty much as we predicted.
Councillor Wing.
It's just an observation, really. I read an article somewhere where it was a London borough that just decided to buy 4,000 units, and it was some time back, to try and get the private rent down, and it actually worked. They drove down rents. So I think the more accommodation we can have, take on board, maybe a side effect of that, or a side benefit, is that private rents go down. So it'd be interesting, are we aware of what the differential is? My neighbours opposite me, it's just a little story, they got given an S21 and needed to move out. And I saw them last weekend and said, did you manage to find somewhere to move into? They said, no, nowhere in Thanet, we're moving back to London. The cheapest place they could find to live was actually back in London. So I think we've really gone beyond, into a critical level of rents in the private sector, and I hope if we can take on board more properties, then maybe we can have some effect on driving that down. I don't know if you've got any opinions, any views on that.
Well, I think a couple of things to say. Firstly, we do track what's going on in the private rented sector, and we've got software that enables us to track both house price movement in the district and rent levels in the district. Rent levels, they are still increasing sharply. We've seen some of the largest increases in the country in private sector rents. They're still, despite the fact that local housing allowances were increased, was it last year? I think about a year ago. The private rented sector is still well above the local housing allowance rate. And that's driven by demand, effectively, by the number of people that are wanting to rent privately in the district. The extent to which our programme will influence that is really difficult to say. Clearly, for every good proportion of the people that end up renting one of our homes might otherwise be in the private rented sector, so it will impact on demand. I would doubt that it would have any significant effect on rent levels, though.
Anybody else? Nope. Can I just ask, why wasn't there any affordable homes on that site? It was 115 houses. Do you have any idea?
Because they've got the first homes. So that was their affordable housing element. They agreed to do the first homes pilot in Thanet.
Thanks. Okay, members, there's three recommendations that we're asked to look at. Have you all got them in front of you? Do I need to read them out, or are you happy with it to look at? Do we all agree? Item 1, recommendation 1, 2 and 3. We all agreed? Okay, so we'll send that off to Cabinet, that we're quite happy with that. Okay, moving on to item 5. The purchase of 10 homes through GPML for temporary accommodation and affordable rent. I'll call on Ms Jackson again.
Thank you. This report seeks the approval to acquire 10 properties for the council to use as temporary accommodation and affordable rent on 2 separate small sites in the district at Margate Road, Ramsgate, and King Street in Ramsgate. These are being built by a small developer, GPML Construction. Although there are 2 sites and 2 sets of homes, 6 flats on Margate Road and 4 townhouses, the homes will be acquired for different purposes. In Margate Road, the flats will be acquired for use of temporary accommodation for the council to use instead of using a third-party provided nightly paid accommodation. And the King Street townhouses will be acquired for the council to use in its housing revenue account as stock. The cost for the home at Margate Road, the 6 flats, will cost the council 1.2 million. For King Street, the acquisition is 1.3 million. As with previous acquisitions, to be viable, schemes need to show an overall surplus over a 30 or 50-year timescale, depending on the duration of any borrowing. The proposed purchase would generate a cash flow deficit in year 1 of 4,800, with a surplus accumulating from year 7 on King Street. Though the homes have not been designed as temporary accommodation or affordable housings, technically in their respective planning consents, they will have been designed to a high specification. There is a significant need for the properties being acquired here. Currently, the council has around 300 households in temporary accommodation and 166 households in temporary accommodation using 1-bedroom properties. The housing register shows 105 households having a requirement for a 4-bedroom property. The recommendations of the report are that, subject to the conditions referred to above, a satisfactory valuation and sufficient grant from Homes England, the council progresses with the acquisition of these 10 properties and their proposed uses as set out, using additional capital budget approved by council at its meeting on the 12th of October. The letting of King Street homes will be in accordance with the council's allocations policy and at an affordable rent as set out in the council's tenancy strategy. 50% of the homes of the King Street homes are let to priority applicants from the council's housing register, and 50% will be let to people moving out of temporary accommodation. Thank you.
Thanks. Members, any questions? Councillor Davis.
Thanks, Ashley. And again, welcome the initiative. The question I've got on this is the actual costs, because if we look at the 6 flats on Margate Road, bearing in mind it's in what could probably be described as a tertiary location rather than secondary, but 1.3 million or even 1.2 million for 4 1-bedroom flats and 2 2-bedroom flats doesn't equate to doesn't align with what 2-bedroom flats seem to be selling for elsewhere on the island. In addition to that, the 4 houses in King Street, again, we've got acquisition at 1.33 million. If we divide that by 4, they seem to be incredibly expensive for what they are in the location, to be honest. There are a lot of much more substantial 3 and 4 bedroom properties on the market for less than, what was that comes in at about 350, doesn't it, each? I don't see the value in 350 on things that are built in the location they're in, and the flats don't make sense to me on those prices either. Sorry, but
I think, as per the report, these properties are subject to valuation, so they will be valued. I think 350 for a 4-bed house is quite good, to be honest.
I'm not saying it's not, it's just the relative location. These have got no land with them, no gardens. They open onto the street by the traffic lights on a bus route. They're not, I mean, again, don't get me wrong, that's King Street for you. And as you know from the old garage development opposite, obviously, doors do have to open on streets in town. So I'm not being being silly on that. It's simply, for that money, there are very substantial semi-detached places going with gardens and things that and storage attached and that. I don't see how those are in any way advantageous to us value-wise. And with regard to the flats, I mean, a two-bedroom flat I was discussing with someone the other day, albeit not new build, and it's a conversion, but there are plenty of two-bedroom flats in the Ramsgate area, which of course is inflated past the pale, but round about the 150 mark. These come in, if we work it out, what is it, 6 flats at 1.2 million, so they're up near the 200,000 mark. As an aggregate, I know there's 4 one-bed and 2 two-bed. As I say, I'm just very concerned about the value on those.
I think, I mean, myself and Bob have looked at the flats. They are for market sale, so they are good to a high specification. The same with the houses, they're a market sale. I'm not saying that's an excuse for paying more. If the valuation doesn't come out to what we're paying, then we won't pay it.
So this is a budget rather than an agreed figure.
Yeah, if
with
the valuation
them, so.
comes out at 280, we'll pay 280. He might not take it. But
that's
that would
fabulous.
be our
That
final
answers
offer.
my question, is that there's an independent oversight on this.
We never pay more than a valuation.
As I say, I don't mean to be not mean to be offensive on this. It's just that those, compared to the other excellent deals that you've done, don't stack up as well. So.
And I have to say, I've been working with this developer for probably about a year to try and make this work, because he was very unrealistic to start with. Right. And he is very aware that if our valuation doesn't come out at what it's supposed to be,
he'll get what they're worth.
He probably won't take it, but that's fine. There are plenty there.
No, thanks. A brilliant answers all my concern there. Thank you.
Do we know what they were marketed at originally? You know, they were on the open market. I know they're not now, but they were. And I suppose you do pay a premium for having the whole block together, which makes it easier for the council. So, any Councillor Wing?
A development near me, I mean, their cheapest one-bed property is 195. Their cheapest one-bedroom flat with no gardens, no nothing, is 195. The 2 bedrooms, I think, are 250. I think the houses at 350. Brand new houses. You can pick up cheaper properties in Ramsgate, but you'd have to spend a lot of money to turn them around. So I don't think they're that far off the mark. And strangely, I do look on a regular basis. Not that I'm moving anywhere.
Councillor Austin.
I just wanted to ask... Oh, sorry, Bob. Do you want to come back?
I was just going to make a comment on Councillor Wing's comment there, because we have had programmes in the past where we've bought second-hand properties from the market and then refurbished them. It has actually proved to be extremely expensive. And tenant leaseholder services kind of generally will say, please don't do that, because we get, we've picked up some really difficult to manage properties with nothing standard about them for the rest of the stock. So, the tenant leaseholder service want all of the stock to be, fairly standard and easy for them to manage. So second-hand stuff that needs renovation is quite problematic.
I suspect that rings true to many of us who've taken on a property and then discovered it was going to cost an awful lot more to put right than we thought. I wanted to ask about, I'm really pleased to see these small sites coming forward and us being able to work with small property developers, because I do think that's probably the way forward to get the little brownfield sites. But I'm concerned about staff time with this, because doesn't it take just as long to sort out 6 flats as it does to sort out 30 larger properties, and does that mean that obviously you've been really, really busy with all of this, and it's great to see it happening, but is there a danger that you're going to actually run out of time to do everything you need to do with these?
So as I said, Bob and I have been speaking to this gentleman for a long time, and it is very time consuming. He was very demanding and he does need managing, so that is a bit of an issue, but we can do that. But it's not only me, so I have Mark James, who's a strategic housing manager, and I have an acquisition manager who manages the purchase and the handover, and I have an acquisition officer as well who does the same sort of thing. So it's manageable. We're all really busy. I'm coming to every OSP and cabinet for, I seem to be here all the time.
But it's doable.
Exactly, yeah, it's fine.
Councillor Butcher.
Thank you. I wanted to ask, with the addition of these, how many temporary accommodation places or properties would be up to in Ramsgate, and how does that compare with other places in Thanet?
So these units, well, they're Margate Road, Ramsgate, so they're by the Hare and Hounds, so I presume that is Ramsgate. It's just, yeah. So we've got those, and Truro Road property, which we bought earlier on in the year, so that's 7 units, and then these would be 6. And at the moment, we've only got Foy House in Margate, which is 8. So that's all we've got at the moment. So it's about the same. Although Ramsgate's winning at the moment. Yeah.
Anybody else? Councillor Austin.
Just want to say that the heading says Eastcliff Ward, which is obviously the King Street one, but the Margate Road ones will be Northwood. Are they Northwood? Yeah.
I put both wards on. Sorry. I did initially. That's fine, yeah. I'll change it on the cabinet.
Okay, anybody else? No. I mean, one positive is they're brownfield sites, as opposed to the council buying the previous ones are on farmland, which always grates me. Okay, so there's 3 recommendations there to look at. Are we all having a look at them? Councillor White? And we all happy with them? Okay, so happy to send that one off. Thanks, Ashley. Thanks, Bob. Okay, moving on to item number 6. I did say we'll be out by 1:45. Review of the overview and scrutiny work panel programme for 24-25. Any comments, members? I'll come to you in a second, not Councillor Austin.
Here, I'd like to put forward that we have a look at youth services in Thanet. Not to my knowledge. That we evaluate it as a possible working party.
We can definitely have that as a cabinet presentation, definitely 100%. And I think
could I just say?
she did do one. Yeah, I thought she did one. I was on holiday at the time.
There are so many organisations that are involved in trying to provide services for youth things. It might be a much wider thing. And we know KCC are withdrawing gradually, so I think it's topical.
Sorry, Councillor Austin, you asked me about neighbourhood engagement. That's definitely going to be I think it would probably be a cabinet and officer presentation. I think, but we're up to November now. I think we've got Councillor Everett and Councillor. Forget that's his name, right? Talking about parking in October. So yeah, I think so. Yeah, so we'll get that one booked in for November. Okay. So and. Next, I was going to ask you to give everyone an update on your grant funding workshop.
Can I just ask another thing, which is
sure.
about the wretched matrix again, which is we talked about the changes to the matrix. We took out the one about how long has this been on the list or whatever as a thing to score by. But we have a heading that says, will the topic result in recommendations that save, it should say the council money, it says that council money, it's just a typo, or generate income? And I thought from our discussions previously, we had lent towards the idea that would be generate income for the council or into the district, which is of course what we're doing at the moment with the working party that Charles is kindly helping us on. So that we don't need to limit ourselves to topics that are about generating input for the council. It might be to do with improving the prosperity of the district. Is there a way we can agree that and make the wording clearer, please?
Yeah, I mean, I was always of the ethic that any recommendations, it doesn't cost the council anything. That, yeah, but this is, yeah, recommendations that, yeah.
Or generate income for the council. For the council or the district, or something like that, something that makes it clear that it's not just about ourselves, because as we discussed at some length, the training that we all went on during induction was about the fact that scrutiny can take a much broader view, and it shouldn't be just about the council's own services and just about the council's own income.
But I mean, the topic will gain enough points from the other scoring.
I'm asking as a point of principle about how we have changed our matrix for scoring, because you will recall that several of us were deeply unhappy about it at the beginning of this council term.
We didn't change any headings, we just took 2 out to simplify it a little bit. I mean, but do you want to change the wording on that then? Do you want to just tell us what you would like the wording to be? And then we can all... Yeah, okay.
Just backing up what Trish is saying, but I think we can make it quite simple, and instead of specifically relating to money or bringing funds, is use the word value and how we can add value, because sometimes you can have a more profitable outcome by adding value into the deal, but it doesn't actually involve the exchange of hard cash.
It might be, adding value more generally. Yes.
You know, there's a topic that there is a discussion to be had, but it's yet to find out. But for example, about council tenants that are going from peppercorn rent to full commercial rent, despite the fact they're in receipt of core funding from us. It seems ridiculous to be giving somebody funding and then to increase their costs. But anyway, that's a different discussion. But value rather than cash, I think, would probably just tweak the whole value on the discussion.
So yeah, so I'm going to just read this out, and then if you agree.
I agree with John, but I'd make a more broader view. We're totally and utterly fixed on finance all the time, which, okay, we have to do that because we can't spend money we haven't got. But, we had a very good meeting with the police, and sometimes we're looking at other stuff, like something we look at might reduce our street drinkers, or it might reduce our crime, or it might improve our open spaces. There's the idea of social profit rather than economic profit, which very often is more important than economic profit if we're going to turn some of our towns and areas around. So obviously finance has to be in there, but it really does worry me that we're fixated on finance all the time, to the neglect of everything else, when this money doesn't belong to us. It's residents' money, and we should be spending it on behalf of our residents, and they're not particularly worried about whether we break even sometimes, because they want clean streets. So we have to have a wider view of the term value. It can't just be about finance.
I totally agree. I just when we put these recommendations together in previous reviews, when we list them, I mean, they go off to CMT to look at, and they can be rejected because they feel that there's not the budget there to implement the recommendation. So I think that's always an issue. So funding always has to be as respect to the recommendations. Tricia.
Can I suggest that we reword that topic, but that we also look at the one immediately to the left of it? Is the topic currently underperforming as per the council's performance monitoring? Well, if it's nothing to do with the council, it isn't going to be. Can we take that one out and put something about social value in there, and then alter the other one, which I've just lost sight of? Here we go. Alter, will the topic result in recommendations that save the council money or generate or bring income in to the council or the district? And then can we put in the topic currently performing and the performance monitoring one something about, will the topic result in recommendations that generate social value for the district? Additional social value for the district.
Additional added values. Additional.
Just put that into under
Yeah.
or added social value.
Okay, but can we get rid of the
Additional.
performance monitoring because it's not relevant to a lot of topics? A lot of the topics that we want to look at, it's not going to relate to youth services, it's not going to relate to health and well-being. A lot of the things that we are expressing, yeah, but that's because we're measuring the wrong thing. We did ask for a review of the headings and we didn't get a review of the headings. What we got was, you know, a year and a bit on, all we've done is take one out. We haven't changed the others. I would like to propose that we get rid of the one about performance monitoring and that we reword the other one then to look at saving the council money, generating income or additional social value to the district.
Within the topic, current underperforming, I mean, you wouldn't get a score in for coastal waste management. So that would get a score under there.
Yes, but I think it narrows. Well, we talked about how we have had a very, very narrow view of what the scrutiny panel is about until we all went on that induction training where they said, hey, you can look at any topic you like as long as it's relevant to your residents and your district. And that's why we've come up with some of the ideas that we have, the one that we're working on at the moment and some of the other proposals that we've got. And actually that's not about the council's performance monitoring. Presumably we could add, you know, it'll get a bonus point in our scoring if it does, you know, it is something, that we could do something like that. But actually it's not relevant to a lot of the things that members of this panel have identified as needing discussion. I'd generate income or social value in the district. The point is about, yeah, it's not about the council.
Again, Chair, can I just tell you that if you restrict it to social values, the term that I think is better is additional measurable benefits, because then that can be anything. Yeah. It could be a social value, it could be the public realm, it could be.
Yeah. Current review, I mean, everything goes.
I'd just like to say steady on a bit. I mean, I don't disagree with what's just been said, but we do have to consider that what we're looking at in part does impact on the council's budget, does hopefully make the council work more efficiently, and that I don't want to lose those from the matrix. So correct me if I'm wrong, what is being proposed is to lose...
No, not losing anything.
Yeah, it is.
You want to lose that one?
No, it's changing it so that impact on the council, budget or otherwise...
Council money, or generate income, or add social value.
So, okay.
Thank you, Chair. Oh, sorry. Yeah, are we okay? Yeah, thank you. So we've had several useful meetings. We've met with officers, we've met with people from infrastructure bodies, and we had an extremely well-attended session with voluntary groups in what must have been the hottest room in the entire building, and Councillor Fellows splendidly stayed in the hot room while the rest of us went into breakout spaces that were a lot cooler. But we got some really useful information from those voluntary groups. We've also sent those questions that we were discussing out to people who couldn't attend, and we've had a few of those back as well. So we have now put together a draft timetable to get the report written and a draft report discussed with the participants before we send it to Cabinet CMT, because we want to be able to go back to those participants and say, this is what we think you told us, is that right? What we don't want to do is say, thanks very much, we've written this stuff, off you go. So we really want to build a relationship with those organisations, and some of the things that have come up we think are things that we can definitely go ahead with regardless of the reception, frankly, that it gets at Cabinet, because there are things in there that we can commit to doing as members, whether or not there's officer time dedicated, although we do hope that we will be able to recommend that there should be officer time dedicated to this. So we've had some really constructive responses. We're very interested in what's being said, and we're hoping to be able to reflect that in the report.
Yeah, I think it's that last meeting, I mean, I've learnt a lot. I mean, in Birchington, I don't really interact with too many social volunteer groups. We have like litter pickers and gardeners and things like that, but it's when you start hearing the stories from some people that are doing some really good work on the ground, and start hearing them. Yeah, it's just hopefully we get the support from officers when we put our recommendations together, because they do a lot of work and do pick up a lot of slack from this council. Excellent. Sorry, Katie, do you want to say?
Yeah, I've got a suggestion for a future working group from Councillor Bright on improving biodiversity.
Yeah, for me, it's an old topic. It's an old favourite. It's recycling. I know that on the 15th of October we've got a Cabinet member presentation. I'm thinking, is that Councillor Alban?
On which day, sir?
15th of October.
15th of October is Councillor Bright Parking Review.
Okay, well...
No,
It's October. They've got Councillor Everett September. Councillor Bright.
Yeah, we've got a cleansing services item on the 15th of October.
He wants to go to November, does he? He wants to move it.
But it's just we across the all wards, our recycling rate has got to improve, and I think it's a subject that affects us all.
Okay, moving on to item 7 is the forward plan and exec cabinet reports list. So anything any members would like to ask to note the report? No, all done. Okay, so that concludes the business of tonight's meeting. I declare this meeting closed. Thank you to all members and to Ashley and Bob for coming along. Sorry, just after 2:45.